Ondy Wilson is a UK-based, internationally acclaimed mindfulness trainer, writer, and Buddhist teacher. A Dharma practitioner since 1980, and she established the Yeshe Buddhist group in 2001, and she's been an FBMT touring teacher since 2007. She makes teachings accessible to contemporary life and has created a mindfulness-based mind training program that encapsulates Buddhist psychology in a secular framework. She has an upcoming book on the day-to-day practice of mindful awareness called Spiritual Rebellion: Why We Need to Practice Mindfulness with Attitude.
We like the attitude, don't we? Okay, over to me.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, okay. And then if anybody late turns up, you can let them in, can't you? I'll leave it all to you now, the hosting, yeah?
They automatically come in.
Okay, yeah, of course. It's just a drop in, isn't it? Okay. Yeah. Lovely to see you all. Some of you have attended my course about a month ago. Beverly's been coming to my classes since forever, up here in Cumbria with the Yeshe Buddhist group. And for some of you, I'll be brand new. So this is my first time with Become Your Own Therapist. And it's so open as to be terrifying, really. What do I talk about? So I'm going to go with the flow this week with a little bit of structure. And then I think what happens is also you have questions and ideas that will come to you. And I thought we could start with a 10-minute meditation just to calm our minds. Then I'll talk for a while. And then bring it open to you and see where we go with it. Yeah. And if you've got nothing to say, and if I've got nothing to say, we'll end with another meditation. We'll see how it goes. Okay. Okay. So let's just come into our lovely space that we've created here together. Relax the body. Find your posture. And take some nice deep breaths. And let the day go. For some of you, it's morning, so you'll be nice and fresh, but whatever's been going on for you, just let it settle so that our minds become very still and open to the ideas we're going to be thinking about today. We just follow the breath, letting thoughts go, breathing them out. It's easier said than done, this following the breath and letting thoughts go. We know that, so don't have any sense of, oh, my mind's busy, can't do this. Just, that's what the practice is, just noticing the thoughts and letting them subside. So we find some spaciousness between the thoughts. And we can also think about our motivation. Why did we come along today? What is it we hope to get? Is there anything in particular that we're curious about or we want to deal with? So that when the session ends, you're satisfied. And then when your motivation is clear, again, just a few deep breaths before we end this little part of the session where we just create the space to listen, to discuss, to be at ease with ourselves. Relax and bring your meditation to an end. There we are. Okay, we have some messages there. One will be, okay, that's Anna. She can't, she doesn't have the camera today, so she's there, hiding behind Lama Yeshe. It's lovely to see as well. Okay, folks, so when I was thinking about how to start this, just to give it some structure and to get things going, I was thinking really about this sense of helplessness that we can feel when we're in a situation where we just, okay. Can you hear me now? Yeah. And is everybody else muted? Great. Okay, we'll go for it like that. Otherwise we get interference. Right, so I'll start again. Yeah, when thinking about how to get things going before we start some discussion and questions and answers, I was just contemplating how there's such a sense of helplessness for many of us right now, who we feel that we can't do much to help what's going on in the world. We've had such turmoil, we've had COVID, we've still got COVID, only that seems to have gone off the news now as the war in the Ukraine has taken over. And of course, that's not the only war that's going on. There's still terrible things happening in the Middle East, Afghanistan, Syria. And I know that I personally think, what can I do? And the Buddha's advice in all of this always is to look to ourselves, really. Before we think of helping anybody else, we need to help ourselves. And if we have a troubled mind, one that feels inadequate, one that is feeling that it's not doing anything to help at all, it's maybe causing problems, then actually we just create more turbulence. So the principal practice of Buddhism is always to manage your constructive and destructive emotions and to stabilize the mind. That's the key. You know, we can spend the rest of our life just trying to do that and we'll achieve something. So stabilizing the mind, as we've just probably found out in the meditation, is easier said than done. Because to do mindfulness of the breath, breathing, letting thoughts go, finding space, often what we find is the mind is just going everywhere. So one of the things that we really need to instill each day is to spend 5 or 10 minutes just stabilizing, just finding that space. And if we spend about 20 odd minutes or so doing it, you might well find that after a while, your body is affected. Everything about you is affected. You become more still. The mind calms down. And that's part of stabilization. And then if we find anything coming into our lives like news, bad news, we're getting upset, anything like that, just to take a few deep breaths and just, it's okay. Who I am, what I am is enough. And then in that space, maybe we will find practical things to do that contribute, you know, the generosity, the giving, but just having a good mind, a good open mind is the starting point. So managing destructive emotions, I guess a lot of people are going through not just a sense of helplessness, but a sense of anger, frustration, maybe fear. Fear is such a terrible thing. We think, where is it going to go? And we get sort of paranoid. We hear about, nuclear war threats, all kinds of stuff like this. And we think, whoa, the world is changing. It's so volatile. Well, to be frank, the world is always volatile, and we never know what's going to come to us next. And it's an incredibly good time to practice. So if we can manage to have a stable mind and a big heart at times like this, where we're really utilizing what is facing us by generating love and compassion, actually people in trouble are helping us. They're helping us be better people. They're helping us on our path. Suffering is always there. That's the first noble truth. There is suffering. And then if we want to go further, then we know that the second noble truth is the cause is desire. Well, part of the desire is wanting the world to be a certain way. And it's never going to be what we want it to be. So actually working with what is presenting itself to us is the battle with our minds. How am I dealing with this? What am I doing with my own mind? And how can I benefit others by just being in the present and a good person? Yeah. So we know that there's this wonderful prayer called the Four Mindfulnesses. And the Four Mindfulnesses, first of all, is you wish everyone to be happy. And when you wish everybody to be happy, you are generating love. So it's easy to generate love for those people we see suffering. The people, at the border to Poland, the women, the children, Bev was just mentioning when we came into the session, that's easy. That's easy. How do we generate love towards those people who are actually in the process of creating turmoil? That's not so easy. Yeah. Now, the first one is generating love. The second one is may all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. But that's when we generate compassion. So that's a step. It's a different generation of qualities. So one is you want them to be happy. And the second one is that how can we do anything to free others from suffering? How can we free ourselves from suffering? Suffering is the nature of existence. And while we're suffering, small things, we know that, samsara, this cycle of life that we're in, has many different layers. There's the everyday suffering, the disturbed mind, the arguments we have with people, the fact that it might be too cold, the fact that we taste something and we don't like the food. These are like little things which are happening all the time, which we just think are normal. At the moment, we're all focused on this idea of this huge suffering. So for sure, that is this huge suffering. It is kind of intangible. Or you can sit there, you can watch, you can cry, and you think, these poor people. When we do that, the important thing is to generate love and compassion, because what we're witnessing is actually helping us nurture our own good qualities. So it's a very strange game we play in samsara, because without others, we can't generate those qualities. Without seeing that other people are suffering, we can't generate that. So the sheer fact that there is such a strong interdependence in the world, is part of the Buddhist message. We can't separate ourselves from others. So the third immeasurable is the immeasurable where we want others to never be separated from the happiness that is free from suffering. Now, that is recognizing that really, unless you have the Dharma, the knowledge that we can destroy our ignorance with the view of emptiness, and that we can generate bodhicitta, or this incredible altruistic intention to benefit others, that unless people have that, there will always be problems. We're going to have problems all the way until enlightenment. Problems come again and again and again. And to work with those as a method for changing our own minds is the path to enlightenment. So the third noble truth is obviously ending, if we end, the way to end suffering is to end this craving. Part of our craving is to want peace. We have this existential feeling that we want the world to be perfect. We want a utopia. We want everybody to be happy. If everybody's peaceful, wouldn't it be wonderful? And, you spend your life kind of hoping that when this war finishes, that will be the last one. And when this, starvation or climate change finishes, then we'll all have a wonderful place. Basically, understanding that actually, while we are in samsara, that's not going to happen. It's not a pessimistic view. It's a recognition that we are trapped, if you like, by our own ignorance. And we might see at the moment that we think, somebody like Mr. Putin is so ignorant. There's an extreme ignorance. He's causing all this suffering. Well, that is going to come back to him. And again, that is the Buddhist message. We have the seeds. Because we have ignorance, because we haven't understood the way things are, then the seeds, the karmic seeds are on our consciousness, and that is binding us to our existence. So if we want to become our own therapist and look after our own minds, the biggest thing, the main thing that we can do is exactly that. And then within that, when we have stability, when we do have some wisdom, when we do have some compassion, then I'm guessing the practical means that you have will come about. Always we want to think, I have to do something practically, which is a wonderful thing. If you can give clothes, or if you can, go and support people, then that feels like you're doing something. It feels very active. But we mustn't underestimate what we can do with our minds, especially in a situation like this. It's actually offering us an immense opportunity to come together in groups like this and to work on any destructive emotions that might be coming up. Now, I'm imagining that things like fear and anger and what the hell is going on. I mean, you in America have had turmoil with your politics. We too have had turmoil with our politics. Nothing seems to be going the way many of us want it to. What is going on with the world? That this is what we're dealing with all the time. It will change. And one can see that the seeds of good are maybe in the bad. Maybe through this big explosion of violence that is happening, maybe another dictator will fall. Yeah. And maybe if it hadn't happened, that would have just sustained. We don't know. Mr. Putin could have continued to keep his stranglehold on Russia. And I know that place because I have a lot of students there, and I visited there 7 years running. And I still have a lot of students who do courses with me monthly, Russians and Ukrainians, because they're friends. They're actually, a lot of them are friends. And they're very frustrated because if they go out on the streets, then they're just imprisoned. So it's an incredibly oppressive regime. well, what if this is just exploding everything outwards? And at some point, it means that that regime will stop. We don't know. So the fourth immeasurable is may all beings abide in equanimity, free from aversion for some and detachment to others. Now, this concept of equanimity is a really challenging one, because what we do in situations like this is we act in an extreme way. Our sympathies are with this group, and we don't like this group. You know, we want these people to win. We want these people to suffer. Even if we're Buddhists, there's a bit of us going, you know, where's James Bond when you need him? Can't they just destroy him? Yeah. This is the kind of mind we have. Let's get rid of the problem. So our challenge is actually to think negative karma has arisen for these people. It's affecting us all. We don't know where it will go. We don't know how it will be contained. But there are some people that are creating such negative karma, it will imprint on their consciousness and they will suffer in the future. Who or what they will be, we don't know. We don't know. We are such sensory beings. You know, we just, the world is there. It's an outside thing. But actually, all the suffering of the world is within us, because we don't know where we're going either. So we're dealing with a lot of concepts here, a lot of Buddhist concepts. You know, the fact that consciousness continues. So after this life, there's another life. We don't know where we're going. We don't know what karma we've created. We have the seeds of karma on our mind. We don't know where we're going to be reborn, what is going to condition us, and what emotions will take over. So while we have this opportunity as Dharma practitioners, where we're engaged with the Dharma, then as much as we can do to stabilize the mind and to develop these wonderful qualities of love and compassion and rejoicing and equanimity is the best thing that we could be doing. Yeah, the best thing, because where it's going to take us in the future, those imprints will be on our mind. Can't take them away. They're positive karmic imprints, and they will bear results. When the causes and conditions come together, those karmic seeds will ripen. So the more we work on that, then the more, you know, we are offering not just the ability to be good people now and loving and open, but in the future to create a consciousness that is going to continue to be positive in the world in future lives. Yeah. So this is all a bit cosmic, but it does come back to this sense of helplessness. We need to be have really good self-esteem in situations like this, and think, I'm really doing my best. I'm working on my mind. I'm offering whatever I can to whoever. I'm extending love and compassion. And one of the wonderful practices one can do is called Tonglen, or giving and taking, where you visualize the people who are suffering and you breathe in their suffering. But because you're using that to destroy your own ego, your own ignorance, it's not harming you. And that's basically what we need to do, isn't it? We don't want a disturbed mind. We don't want any more destructive emotions. We've got enough. So in a situation like this, to be able to utilize other suffering to benefit our own minds is not selfish. It's not selfish. It's very altruistic. It is going to benefit everybody around you, because you will be calm. You will have some wisdom. It will rub off on others, your calm, stable mind and your loving approach to others doesn't mean to say that you go around going, no, poor Putin, because a lot of people won't understand that. You know, we've got to be sensible, but actually in our minds think, wow, this man, what suffering is making this person, and what suffering has made that country the way it is. What suffering makes dictators, people who we would call bad politicians, from your own experience in America, ours in England, we've all got them. Leadership isn't always a positive place to be, because then the ego is really, whoa, I'm the leader. Yeah. And if they don't have Dharma wisdom, how do they deal with that? How do you deal with that as a powerful person? And then you go down all kinds of routes, paranoia and fear and ideas of wanting to create something that you feel is solid. Again, as Dharma practitioners, we know we can't create a solid world. Everything's fluid, everything's moving. Whatever situation there is today, next year it will be different. Next month it will be different. Next week it will be different. Every time we put on the news, something else has happened. So that's kind of where I'm starting from, really. And there's a lot of ideas in there which you perhaps can go, oh, I want to know more about this, or I want to know more about that. But I think this prayer, the Four Immeasurables, is well, they're called immeasurables for that reason. The thoughts, the wishes, the love, the compassion, the equanimity, they're massive things to achieve. Because with equanimity, we're extending that to everyone. We're visualizing Ukraine, Russia, Russian soldiers, Ukrainian fighters, the women, the children, Putin, the generals, all of them. We're not excluding anybody within our own minds, because we understand. Maybe on a practical level, yeah, you know, it's not like being stupid about them, but in our own minds, we develop that love, compassion, and equanimity for all of them, seeing everybody as being subject to their own karma, their conditioning, their own ignorance, and creating suffering. Okay, so that's the beginning. And one step further I'd like to take before I open it up a little bit is the idea of self-esteem, because I think that is something that when we talk about becoming your own therapist, what you're doing is knowing your own mind. So if we have an appreciation that within us is what we would call Buddha nature, you know, if you're a Christian, you'd call it God within. You've got this quiet source of wisdom and compassion within you. Every being has it. But how powerful is the voice of the ego? Yeah. So for people who are going crazy and doing very violent things for power, for reasons of power, then their ego is very big and very loud. They can't hear. They can't hear the inner wisdom. So when we meditate, we're awakening and nourishing that wisdom. It's only by going inwards that we get in touch with that. And then on an everyday level, if we have that voice just quietly awakened through meditation, we know, we become very clear what is the ego talking and what is my wisdom, what is my Buddha nature saying. We need to create that. And then the self-esteem will arise more strongly, because it's that we're giving power to, not the ego. Yeah? If we give power to the ego, then that's where low self-esteem comes from. And let's face it, if we're looking at somebody, I mean, we're talking about this at the moment, but it's so current, I don't see how I can avoid it really. But if we're looking at somebody like Mr. Putin, then we're saying, what's really his level of self-esteem? Really? It must be very low. He must have low self-esteem in order to have to prove and do these actions. And if we think in our life of people who have expressed good self-esteem, there's an authenticity about them. There's a nothing to proveness about them. Think of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. You know, they're not big egos. There's a humility there. They're kind of okay with themselves because they're very tuned in. And you might think of, I don't know, other examples, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, these great leaders who actually had a humility about them, were very in touch with that spiritual aspect of themselves. Must be incredibly difficult to be somebody who has such low self-esteem that they appear to be arrogant. Yeah. They have to do things to look big. That is an expression of low self-esteem. So that needs some compassion, yeah? Where did it come from? How did it happen? We don't know. We don't know the karmic causes. We don't know people's life histories. But people who express themselves in such a violent wish for power and to oppress others, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear there, yeah? Okay, so I'm going to open that up because I've raised a lot of points here, yeah? The fundamentals are the fundamentals of Buddhism, which is stabilizing the mind, developing constructive qualities, and managing our destructive emotions. I put the four immeasurables in there to guide us towards what are the ultimate positive qualities: love, compassion, equanimity, really feeling happy for others if they've got the Dharma rather than competitive. That's another aspect of low self-esteem. We can see it in so many ways, our little arguments that we have with friends or with relatives. It's often, we don't really want them to be happy because it makes us feel better about ourselves if we get one over them in an argument. The subtleties of self-esteem are something to be worked with all the time. We all have it. There's quite a list. I'm just going to give this to you just to stir you up. So some characteristics of low self-esteem: guilt. Yeah, guilt. You see your imperfections as permanent. You're suffering from something that you think that you've done that you'll never overcome. It's holding you back. It will feed your low self-esteem. Skepticism, being judgmental, being cynical, you know, all these are ways of feeling better than others, but actually an expression of low self-esteem. Depression is an aspect of low self-esteem. I'm no good. I mean, we know that depression is very complex and can be chemical imbalances, but sometimes we can feel, oh, this world is so awful, there's climate change, and it's this, and it's so depressing. It's so depressing. That is the mind that is expecting things to be perfect and can only operate if it thinks that the externals are supporting us. Externals may support us one day and the next day they don't. We know that. Yeah, we know that. So the stable mind is one that isn't driven by these ups and downs, this roller coaster of emotions that life sends us, and a roller coaster of experiences. The war, peace, COVID, plagues, wars, we're getting them all at the moment. It's actually a fantastic time to practice. It is. It's giving us incredible opportunities. So that's the positive in it, which I would like to open up to you now and see how you respond to that and if there's any questions there. So how are you doing with what I've said so far? You've had the noble truths, you've had karma. There must be some things there that you want to ask about or to challenge even. So go with it. Anybody?
Okay, Barbara.
Barbara, would you like to unmute?
Hi, Ondy. Thank you so much for this teaching. Could we talk a little bit more about Tonglen? How you described it to me today, or to us today, was the first time that I kind of got a glimpse of it.
Right.
I always thought taking on other people's suffering, it's like, really, how is that helping them? Like if I take on the suffering of the people in Ukraine,
Yes.
really, how? But when you described it as it's benefiting me, which then is benefiting the more people in my environment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you can do, if you try with Tonglen, taking and giving, the practice is to visualize a person. You might want to start with a person. You can start with the most challenging person. You can have Mr. Putin sitting in front of you. It's not easy. Do you know, even in that situation, just to visualize them, if we have a lot of anger, Mr. Trump or whatever, I find with certain politicians, I can't even think of them. They annoy me so much. They upset me so much. Yeah. So actually to just bring them in and to just start to work on the levels of suffering, what made them the way they are. I remember a wonderful, some information about from His Holiness, where he met Chairman Mao. And he had a dream. And in this dream, this soldier was telling him that they had suffered so much. They couldn't find food. They used to kill the rats to eat them. They never had shoes. They had all this poverty behind them. And this was through again, ignorance, not understanding. They were creating this world where they were controlling. They were trying to control. Now, control, we all know in all of us individually, you try to control things, try to have everything in its place. And, we buy our insurance policies to make sure that we're not going to miss out in the future. So we all have this element of wanting to have control because there is no control. We actually have no control. We don't know if we're going to get sick. We're definitely aging and we're definitely going to die. And we don't know when any of this is happening. And we can see in the world today that, one day there's no war, the next day everybody's involved in something horrendous and everybody's freaking out. So get somebody like that and imagine, you don't know necessarily, maybe you can find out. Imagine where they've come from, what their training was, what they thought was making a great Russia or a great nation. What about friendships? But just the fact that he has got this view and is now possibly committing war crimes, that his suffering is immense. He may not feel it now. Actually, I think he probably is freaking out a bit at the moment because he didn't expect what was happening. But what he's creating on his consciousness for the future, I mean, he will be that refugee. He will be that 6-year-old child that has been bombed. That's the karma he's creating. So we know as a sentient being in samsara, regardless of what he is now, that the consciousness is deeply, deeply damaged through ignorance, yeah, through not understanding the way things are and having no compassion. So once you've got that, I mean, I'm just using him as an example. You do what you want. Start with something easy. Maybe you know somebody who's ill. You really want to help them and you can't. And you see them suffering there. And in your mind, you're imagining it. And then you start to see the suffering as smoke. And you start to breathe that in. You can have a big black cloud in front of your nose and you're breathing it in and it's coming down. And your mind actually is very dominated by your ego. So I've kind of got the middle center of my chest here, the center of my body between my breasts. So that we're focusing there. Now, the big black rock of the ego is surrounding your Buddha nature. So in the center, there's like this incredible light of love and compassion and equanimity. It's there. You touch it many times. But surrounding it is this like hard granite rock. Now, as you're breathing in their suffering, due to the compassion, it's actually destroying that rock, chips it away. And light starts to escape and you're able to give them those immeasurable qualities, yeah? And then more comes in and it destroys more and more. Mr. Putin is helping you become enlightened. Yeah? Or the person that you're trying to help who is suffering, maybe dying from cancer or COVID or whatever's going on for them, they are helping you develop your love and compassion. Yeah? Interdependence. We can't do without any of them in samsara. We need them all in order to progress along the path. Doesn't mean to say that we encourage it, because we're always trying to, create peace and harmony. That is part of our Buddha nature. But we see the suffering, what we would call a Buddha monster, because he has Buddha within him too, Buddha nature. He is no different to us. He's just completely black rock. And he's holding on to that rock because he doesn't know any different. He does not understand, yeah? Due to his low self-esteem, which is expressing itself in arrogance and being power hungry. So that gradually destroys your ego until there's just light. And then at the same time as this is happening to you, you're breathing out light because your love and compassion is being released wholly, holistically, truly, freely. You want him to be happy. You want him to be free from suffering. Yeah? Fantastic practice and very powerful. It's a very powerful practice because it doesn't mean to say you're going to end up writing love letters to him. It just means, that you've got this sense that he's just a sentient being. And for sure, you're going to manifest tears for Ukrainian women and children and those men all having to go and fight. I mean, I'm thinking, oh my God, can you imagine if my son had to go to war? Woo. And you think, oh, thank goodness we're over here. But we don't know. And I think this is an occasion when we all think, because it's happening in Europe, that who'd have thought it? It's like anything's possible. Anything's possible. So that practice of Tonglen, are you actually helping them? Well, through the power of prayer, if enough people are doing that, then actually, who knows? But it's definitely helping you. It's definitely helping you. How was that?
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. And then in the helping me, it's helping the people in my more immediate world.
Yeah, how? How will it help you? You tell me, Barbara.
How is it helping me?
How is it helping people in your immediate world?
By my, again, letting my Buddha nature out,
Yeah.
letting it shine, letting it affect them.
You'll have more wisdom.
Mhm.
Your wisdom and compassion is manifesting. So when our wisdom and compassion is manifesting, we're more likely to have wise ideas. Yeah. So instead of panicking or thinking, oh, I'll do this, I must do this, there was a sense of just listen. It will come. It will, you're opening it up and you can nourish it and nurture it. Once we're in touch with that, it's with us all the time. Whenever we feel ourselves rushing around or grasping onto that, I must do this, or I've got to go here, we just stop. I'll just sit for 5 minutes. And then the right thing to do will come up. Yeah. And other people will be attracted to that. They will listen to you. They're more likely to listen to you. And your calmness and your stability, I mean, we see it, don't we, in the compassion of the women that we've seen on the news, Ukrainian women. I can't cry. I've got to smile. I've got to make dinner for my children. They're manifesting very wise, compassionate choices as a natural mother will do. Yeah. I've got to be calm for the sake of my children. Well, who are the children? The children of the universe. Oh, you're moving around. The children of the universe is everybody out there. We need to be calm for our children. All the sentient beings, we're always praying, we want to help. Yeah. I will become enlightened in order to benefit all sentient beings. I will become enlightened in order to benefit all children. Because every sentient being is a child, and if there's no wisdom and compassion, they're even more of a child. They're babies, because they're completely clouded with ignorance. And we keep the humility, recognizing that they're helping us. So there's no arrogance. Yeah. Fantastic. Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ondy. Thank you.
Thank you. How are we
Hi,
doing?
Ondy. It's Anna.
Hi, Anna.
Hello, hi again there. Um, thanks for your question, Barbara. Just a little addition to that before my question. I was in a group with Robina Courtin, as we all know here, I think it was yesterday, and she was talking about Tonglen, and she stated when she was doing a course on transcendental meditation, it was found that in a town or city, don't know the exact proximity, if more 2% or more people in that group were meditating on the same object or were meditating within this environment, then they found the crime rate was lower, suicide rate was lower, just all kinds of things. So, I think this collective energy we can put together, because we are one stream of consciousness, aren't we? One massive big field of consciousness, thinking I'm just this individual Anna. Yeah, it's actually been scientifically proven it actually does work. It's quite amazing. Now my question, Andy, was
Thank you.
thank you, was about cause and effect, but also the catalyst. So I know that my effects have caused my causes, my conditions that I'm living in within this lifetime. Um, However, I think sometimes it's not really put in there, and I've been across groups of people who are missing this maybe one major component, which is there is the cause, but there's also an external catalyst. So
Sure.
it's kind of takes the nihilism out of it. you know, because it's not like there is a cause. Doesn't mean that you deserve it, ha ha ha. You know what I mean? Just let them go suffer and rot, or let's join in the kicking in. I think we've all got a kind of dharmic duty to try and do the best we can in those situations, be it walk away, shut up, you know, you might have to take legal action, it might have to be even more extreme. Example, the Buddha on the boat who had to kill all those people because he found one of the
Yeah, but
other people on the boat were going to kill them.
we must remember that the Buddha
Yeah,
on the boat had wisdom. He was Buddha.
that's
So
an extreme example,
yeah,
just to get the
yeah.
point across, of course. Yeah, he was a Buddha, as I've said, so he was enlightened, he had clairvoyance, so he could see what. But could you just talk a bit more about the catalyst and the cause and the differences between them?
Well, if I understand what you're saying, I was
Mm,
talking about this yesterday with a group. I've been doing the 12 dependent links of origination. And we were looking at the fact that when you create, when you have the seed, because of ignorance, we have the seeds of karma which are on our consciousness. Now, we won't necessarily get the results. We don't get the results. There's no instant karma. We don't get the results of that until a future lifetime. So therefore, we're definitely in a situation where we can say, this person has been a good person. Why do bad things happen to good people? Yeah. It's because the causes and conditions have not come around. So if what I'm understanding by what you're saying, Anna, is the catalyst, that something will happen that is obviously horrendous. You're standing innocently in the street and a car crashes into you. That is the catalyst. And you might say, well, you still need to take them to court. Yes, indeed you do, because there is judgment and one has to follow through on what is fair. What we have to understand, though, is that if it comes out of a vengeful state of mind, if it's vengeful, then that is not, you're not going to feel any compassion. There's not going to be any wisdom about understanding that this is karma. So yes, indeed, we do have to follow up with what's right and just. But in our hearts, and we know this, we know even from terrorist attacks that there'll be people that will go, I want them to suffer. Yeah. And then there will be people, we've had examples of, a mother who will want to find out why that person did what they did to their child. They have compassion. They don't necessarily want them to suffer. They want to understand. So we have to take great care with how we handle any kind of catalytic experience, in that in our hearts we understand it's karma, but we have to do what we have to do. Yeah. Does that
yeah.
answer you?
It does, and I think the way you've explained it, Ondy, I think we're coming to, one's an ultimate truth, isn't it? The cause. Then you've got the relative truth, which would
Yes.
be the
Yes.
catalyst. So
Yes.
that's for two accomplishments, isn't it? For two
Yes.
truths.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Oh, well done. That's how it works. That's
Yes.
how it works. It's having that
Okay.
the view of emptiness is so powerful. Having the view of emptiness, which I don't know how experienced some of you are, but the view of emptiness is a pretty, standard first kind of lesson, if you like, in Buddhism, that we are not, we don't exist inherently from our own side, and that everything has this interdependent cause and everything is seen differently. So having that view of emptiness to view what's going on in the world today is very powerful, because it's definitely not nihilistic. We know it's going on. We know it has to be dealt with. I mean, we're not here going, oh, well, this is karma. Just let Putin do what he has to do, because it's the karma of the Ukrainians. You know, you would have a lot of people turning against Buddhism if you did that. And it's a misunderstanding, actually. You know, if you're careless with what you say to people, they will think, oh, you know, you're saying that person has cancer and it's their karma, it's their fault. You're saying it's their fault. That is a serious misunderstanding of what we of what we know to be karma, because we all have it. But as Buddhists, we know that we can say, okay, the Ukrainian people who are suffering have the karma to suffer, but we all do. We all do. And that they are offering us the opportunity to develop our compassion and become enlightened. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you. How are we doing for time, Lou? Oh,
It's past 1,
it's
but it was
past.
very interesting.
It's a quick hour, isn't it? Huh?
Yes.
It's a quick hour. I thought I'd only talk for 5 minutes. That's typical of me. I go on and on. Anyway, it's been so lovely. What do you want to talk about next week? Any requests? If not, I will just do what I did this week and, you know, go from my heart, and it'll all bear fruit. So it's been so lovely to spend time with you. It's a lovely little format, this, isn't it? And I hope I've given you plenty, I'll give myself plenty to think about, let alone you. So have a lovely day if it's morning, and a lovely evening for Bev and I and Anna, who are in the UK, I think. Yeah. And I'll see whoever turns up next Tuesday. I'll be there.
Same time, same place.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Lou, for hosting this. And all the co-hosts.
It's me. I'm in the room twice. I'm just reading. Thank you,
Thank
Ondy.
you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you for
Louis.
your
Apologies for
questions as well.
the video.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.